is the Commissioner of Securities and Exchange Commission, the Philippines. He is also a law professor, a mandatory continuing legal education lecturer, and a Manila Times business columnist. Attorney Lee is a frequent keynote speaker and lecturer in fintech, corporate law, corporate governance, and SEC regulations. He has also spoken in international events organized in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Spain. He has a bachelor's and Juris Doctor degree from the Ateneo de Manila University and certificates from executive education programs on private and public international law from the Academy of International Law, on securities regulation from the Toronto Center, and on fintech from the Judge Business School of the University of Cambridge. All right, so thank you. Let us all welcome Attorney Lee.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that very kind introduction, Sir Roland. Fair warning, I have a bit of a cough. I don't think it's related to that, but just in case I cough a little, no, pasensya na po. It's been a very busy week, so medyo pagod na po. But I'm happy to be here. God bless everyone. No, it's an honor, privilege, and a blessing to be here. Talaga. Congratulations to all the awardees. May God bless you in particular. Let me greet very quickly si Mr. Angel De Leon, the chairperson of APPEND, to Mr. Rolando Victoria, si Dr. Jeng, who was the one I spoke to, si Pastor also, no? And I would be amiss if I don't mention very quickly si Director Rachel Remalante. I work with her at the SEC. In case you're not familiar with her, she's my most valued director in the SEC. We work a lot on many issues, including fintech, corporate governance, and a bit of Mnrc as well. No? To the advocates, clientele of Microfinance, associates, everyone. No? Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of our chairperson, Emilia Aquino, and the SEC, allow me to extend my heartfelt greetings to everyone here in APPEND. It's an honor and a privilege, and as I mentioned, a blessing po din po talaga to be here in this virtual meeting despite yung COVID-19 pandemic. No? And I'm happy to talk to you about the Mnrc and the policies that we have come up with here at the council. So with that, no, allow me to begin. Next slide, please. This is an outline po natin today. No? Today's discussion with more of a lecture per request ni Dr. Jeng. She suggested kasi I rather than discuss parang yung mga policies, it's better that I go specific and discuss yung mga mandato po ng Mnrc and some of the actions of the SEC in relation to this. So that so our constituents, kayo po, the Mnrc constituents, would be guided and would be more familiar. So this is the outline po essentially what we'll discuss today. No? I won't elaborate on it anyway, it's there naman po. Next slide, please. So yung main topic po natin, the Microfinance NGO Regulatory Council, Mnrc. Next slide po. Under Section 9 of the revised of the Republic Act 10693, also known as the Microfinance NGOs Act, an accrediting body po kasi of MFNGOs known as Mnrc shall be composed of 4 permanent members and 3 members from the MFNGO sector. That's your sector, of course, no? The permanent members are the ones you see on screen, no? With the chairperson being our own chairperson, Emilia Aquino, who has chosen to delegate that authority and function to our director, Rachel Remalante. So I also sometimes sit on that council to watch sila Director Rachel in action and to learn from everyone who is there as well, no? Because it's always good to learn from other members of the Mnrc as well as experts in this field. Next slide, please. So, and I'd like to mention lang our private sector representatives. No, they're chosen by a majority of the permanent members, and they're supposed to serve a term of 3 years. No, si Mr. Eduardo Jimenez, si Father Jose Lobrigo, and si Attorney Ibarra Malonzo. Next slide. So, Section 11 naman of the Microfinance NGOs Act enumerates the essential powers naman po of the Mnrc. And they are as enumerated there on screen. No? First function is to institutionalize and operationalize yung system of accreditation. It's also supposed to issue certificates, and these certificates are supposed to be valid for a period of 3 years from issuance. Then they're supposed to monitor compliance, no? Monitor the performance and compliance of the NGOs. And if there are any violations, no, yun naman po talaga, anytime you're talking about any regulator, part of the function will be to suspend or revoke certificates for those who no longer meet the requirements or who violate the appropriate laws, rules, and regulation. The, the MNRC also has the function of requiring regular submissions, no? Reportorial requirements natin po yun, no? So including the payment of accreditation and monitoring fees. And then any other functions that may be applicable. Next slide, please. So Rule 3, Section 5 of the IRR naman po of the Microfinance NGOs Act provides that the MNRC is supposed to be supported by a secretariat, no, to coordinate the activities involved in the accreditation process, the monitoring, regulation of these accredited NGOs, and that secretariat is supposed to be lodged here with us at the SEC. So the secretariat is supposed to provide you technical and administrative support to the MNRC. And the one we have assigned to function as a secretariat po is the monitoring division of the SEC Corporate Governance and Finance Department, which is the department na po that is under Director Rachel Remalante. So, but take note lang po, by way of caveat, that the MNRC secretary is only in charge of monitoring the compliance po, no, of the NGOs with the Microfinance NGOs Act, no, while compliance with the Revised Corporation Code, the Securities Regulation Code, on Data Privacy Act, things like that, will be with the appropriate agencies. So SEC po for Revised Corporation Code, Securities Regulation Code, for NP's Data Privacy Act naman ni NPC po, the National Privacy Commission. And if it's the Credit Information System Act naman po, the CISA, that's under the Credit Information Corporation naman po. We're here, ayan. So MNRC, I'll show you the website lang din po, no? Next slide. This is how you can learn more about the MNRC. The MNRC, which, and then you can also learn about the accreditation process, who are the MNRC accredited NGOs, and other matters that you can file with us at the SEC, such as filing a complaint against the NGOs, request for monitoring of their conformities, if ever. No, all you can do, and you can do it online. No, we have a very good website. I say it's very good because one of my departments I handle is also the one doing the website. No, so medyo self-serving din po yung statement ko po. But I'd like to think that our website is very good. So I would invite you to please check it out, www.sec.gov.ph. Scroll down lang po and you should find the MNRC logo, which looks like that nga po, no? If you see on the lower right hand of your screen. And you click on it to go to the web corner. Next slide, please. And in the MNRC web corner, there's a sidebar for navigations. No? You can look at the tabs, the different tabs po. There's on the discussion on the law, yung IRR, IRR po pala, no, is implementing rules and regulation, the basic concepts of microfinance, members of MNRC, the issuances, the procedure for accreditation, yung mga forms. Kumbaga, all that information, all the data is there naman din po, no, on the website. So like I said, I do invite you to please visitahin niyo po yung website namin, no, take a look and then tell us what you think about it. Next slide naman po. Please note na under the MNRC issuances tab, when you say issuances, ito po yung mga what the MNRC comes up with, no, or promulgates na mga decisions. No? So that contains all the memorandum circulars, the advisories, the notices, and that's regularly updated po. No? So these issuances implement nga the general provisions of the Microfinance NGOs Act, the MNRC rules and regulations, among others. Next slide, please. So siguro as an example, the most recent notice po natin at the MNRC is a request for comments on the exposure draft of an upcoming memorandum circular, no, on guidelines of accreditation of NGOs for the period of 2022 to 2025. So nandiyan na po yan sa website, and I would encourage the public to submit yung mga comments po nila. You have until I think it's until November 15 po yata, no? You still have the weekend in case you want to comment on it. So please feel free to take a quick look at it and then comment po, no, if you get the chance. We talk about the frequently asked questions naman po. Frequently asked questions and responses. Choppy po pala, no? Can you hear me now? There you go. There. Better? I hope you can hear me now. No, I switched internet lang po. So anyway, the web corner also contains frequently asked questions and yung mga responses po nga din na tab. No? So, and there's a universal PDF file which includes for information on the general principles of microfinance, whether or not the NGO is supposed to get a certificate of authority to operate now from the SEC, yung mga requirements for accredited. Endless na, you can see no in the web page. You'll remember that as of August 2021, there are 32 NGOs accredited by the MNRC. So if your NGO lender claims that it is an MNRC accredited institution, but it's not on that list, then you should report it to us at the MNRC. Kasi that means there's something wrong. No? That list is updated very regularly po kasi. Next slide, please. Now, if you want to file a complaint naman po against the NGOs, you can click the complaints or tab portion naman. But please be reminded that there are certain subjects lang that the subject matters that the council can evaluate. No? So hindi naman plenary po yung jurisdiction ng MNRC. No? So syempre subject to the laws, rules, and regulation that applies as well. No? And the greatest penalty that the MNRC can invoke and can apply here is revoke the certificate of accreditation. So parang death penalty for the NGO itself. No, pardon the terminology. Other remedies naman, civil, criminal, or administrative in character, you have to go to the courts na po. So if the revocation of the certificate of registration is certificate of accreditation is your goal, then the MNRC would be the appropriate venue for you. Okay. Next slide po. Now for requests of monitoring naman of accredited NGOs, no, if they're accredited or not, then you can check it out in the website and then do the appropriate action. And then next slide, please. And then for more information naman po, no, to get a full list of the requirements, you can look into the latest SEC Citizens Charter naman po at the SEC. And then to know more naman about the MNRC website, please feel free to visit the link that we're posting there now. And if medyo mas tech savvy po kayo, no, you can also scan the QR code. And yes, we do QR codes na rin po sa SEC. So next slide po, no, we're going to talk about the minimum requirements naman to be complied with as an accredited NGO. Okay, so itong part naman din, there's a few pointers that kasi I think you would need to remember some of these things lang, ano. For corporations kasi, you need for MNRCs, you would need to have microfinance or microfinancing in the corporate and trade names. And of course, the primary purpose has to be to implement a micro enterprise development strategy and to provide microfinance programs and services for the poor. And then one of the minimum requirements is the 3 consecutive years. 3 consecutive years of microfinance. And take note that 1 million application and at all times of the existence of the microfinance company. Next slide po. In sections 14 to 16 of the microfinance NGOs naman enumerates the set of parameters for determining the financial performance naman po, the social performance, and the principles of good corporate governance of accredited NGOs. So the specific indicators of each of these are annexed naman po to the MNRC Memorandum Circular number 1 series of 2018. So I invite you to check it out na lang din po. No? Once again, it's on the website naman din po lang natin. Next slide po. Now you can see in this graph the minimum rating required for each performance standard naman. No? So to pass the standards prescribed by MNRC. So what constitutes a passing score naman in the assessment of these of the NGOs? Primarily, it's supposed to score at least 50% in each of the 3 major indicators: financial performance, social performance, governance, and then overall there should be a weighted average rating of at least 60%. Next slide, please. Now these are the limits. Once again, please take note of these limits set by the MNRC for accredited NGOs na po. For the ceiling, 300,000 pesos is the maximum amount of microfinance loan that an NGO, microfinance NGO can extend to its borrower at any point in time. The total investment naman of real estate must not exceed 25%. Tapos as regards the minimum liquidity naman po, it's at least 25%. Please take note that the computation of that liquidity ratio is supposed to be total current assets divided by total current liabilities. Okay? And then you have to follow the definitions of what is current assets and current liabilities as provided for in MNRC Memorandum Circular number 2 series of 2019. Sorry, medyo technical po, but that's what Dr. Cheng requested. So hopefully people are learning something from this. Next slide, please. Now, aside from that, the NGOs accredited by the MNRC must always be a net lender. Okay? And that the ratio of their microfinance loans to total assets must be at least 65% of the whole component. In case you're not familiar with this, I would suggest you speak to the Secretariat and try to request for some assistance in moving forward on this. No? Or perhaps talk to APPEND. I'm sure APPEND would be happy to help you when it comes to this. Next, we're at TILA. So, just to be clear, when MNRC conducted the on-site evaluation naman of the NGOs before the pandemic, it was observed that a lot of the, by our auditors at the SEC, it was observed that a lot of the NGOs don't satisfy the Truth in Lending Act. No? There are obligations kasi mandated of a creditor under the Truth in Lending Act. No? So, siguro reminder to everyone to be aware of the Truth in Lending Act. Okay, as provided for and applied under MNRC Memorandum Circular number 1 series of 2019. No? And it's very specific po kasi under the TILA that the information required to be in the disclosure statement of the NGOs would be the principal loan, the rate of loan interest, and then including effective interest rate. No? So yung mga iba-ibang fees pa, meaning the other fees, the other interests, penalties, and charges. And of course, you have to illustrate how to calculate the total amount of obligation in case of default. Take note that this is required under the Truth in Lending Act as applied by MNRC Memorandum Circular number 1. Now, next slide. Now, aside from what I mentioned earlier, obligations include the posting of that information in the disclosure statement I mentioned kanina, Truth in Lending Act. It should be posted in conspicuous places. So dapat makikita ng mga customers po, ng mga members of the NGO who want to borrow. They're able to see yung mga requirements nga, precisely Truth in Lending, para makita nga po ng mga tao, and everything is fully disclosed to them, the effective interest rate and all the other charges and penalties if applicable. Okay? And if wala, the customer actually has the power and responsibility to demand it. No? Anyways, it's okay. Next slide, please. So let's move on naman to CISA. Thank you. Next slide, please. So moving on to the CISA naman, the Credit Information System Act, accredited NGOs are supposed to comply with their obligation as submitting entities. No? What are some of these requirements? No? They have to ensure that there's basic credit data of borrowers submitted to the Credit Information System, Credit Information Corporation po pala, no? Are complete and accurate and up to date. No? They have to rectify errors if ever may mga errors, no? And then send the corrected information to CIC within a period of 3 years, and develop an internal dispute resolution process. What do you mean by dispute resolution? Kung may away po, then syempre there has to be a system on how to determine how these things are done, okay? And how those things are resolved. So, yes, and then annual submission of reports by MNRC. Then you have to submit these the forms that are beginning 2019. These are the forms that you have to submit as an NGO yearly. No, I won't enumerate it anyway. It's all there on screen. Next slide. Now, beginning 2021, these reports are supposed to be submitted on or before June 30 of each year. Na po, no? So the 2019 deadline has been passed. So everyone must know that the submission naman for the 2020 reports was extended to December 31, 2021, precisely because we're aware now of the difficulties of the COVID-19 pandemic. So kami at the SEC, we are trying to adjust and accommodate po naman. I recall that the extension for the submission of that report was something that Director Rachel Remandlante was feeling very strongly about, precisely to help the industry. Okay? So next slide. There. So MNRC initiatives to support NGOs naman po, and to help them recover. Next slide. So recognizing the need for regulatory relief for the microfinance industry, and considering that the Bayanihan of 2020 encouraged the government to relax yung mga restriction requirements over regulated entities like the microfinance NGOs, the MNRC has issued Memorandum Circular number 1 series of 2021, which allowed accredited NGOs to avail of the different prudential relief measures in view of their current accreditation. But take note that these prudential relief measures are applicable only to MNRC accredited NGOs. Next slide. So one of them is that the reports or documents sent through the MNRC email address during the community quarantine are recognized as valid na. So kahit walang hard copy muna, that's fine so long as they are consistent with the Electronic Commerce Act. Next slide, please. And the MNRC will later on require physical copies of reportorial submissions made over email once the state of public health emergency has been lifted. Next slide. And to avail of these measures, the letter notification to be sent to the MNRC must contain yung explanation nga of the debt relief measures that the NGO provided to its clients, especially micro-entrepreneurs and low-income clients. No? Kasi nga, we're trying to adjust to them as well. And of course, it must be in good standing with the relevant government agencies, among others. Oh, sorry, back one pa, very quickly lang. There. And the complete submission may be made personally or through registered mail. Okay? And it has to have all the documents that I mentioned earlier, yung mga board resolutions, yung mga ganon. Next slide, please. So this is what is contained in the letter notification I mentioned. No? It has to be signed by the president of the NGO or an equivalent or next ranking officer niya. And the letter must state the following things. No? The intention to avail the prudential relief measures, the measures to be availed of, the debt relief measure for clients, and then the statement that the NGO nga is in good standing with the government. Next slide, please. Then this slide shows how applications are being evaluated naman sa MNRC. Such evaluation is supposed to be made by the council in a meeting duly called for that purpose. And then, of course, that accredited NGO must ensure that the measures to be availed of are suitable to their COS, which stands for condition, operation, and situation. Next slide. So in summary, we also need to remember these important dates for MNRC's Memorandum Circular Number 1, Series 2021. No? So the issuance date is March 31, 2021. The publication and effectivity date both on April 23, 2021. The effectivity date of the prudential relief measures is supposed to be for 1 year from the effectivity of the circular, so until April 22, 2022. Okay? Depending, of course, on the developments of the COVID-19 situation, that might adjust pa po. Now, here, the MNRC also posted a draft memorandum circular nga, on the consolidation and recalibration of these different MCs in the past, MC 1, 2, 4, series of 2018 in the MNRC web corner. Now, some of the features of the guidelines are yun nga, what you see on screen, a section on definition of terms for better understanding of an MIS or management information system, documentary requirements to be required from new applicants or for re-accreditation, the reduction and provision of conditions in the submission of other documents, things like that. The publication of this thing and the effectivity is intended to be in December 2021. So NGOs applying for accreditation and re-accreditation are requested to prepare for these requirements. No? So aralin nyo na po, I invite you to go once again to our website because the newly set deadline of that is supposed to be on January 21, 2020. So next year po. Next is the Truth in Lending Act. I touched upon it kanina. We have a video. Next slide, please. I'd just like to mention that the MNRC, in partnership with the ADB, has released a video guide for microfinance clients and loan officers on how to deal with TILA, how to discuss the effective interest rate and the loan officers. I won't show you the video kasi medyo mahaba po yung video, mga 5 minutes din po yata. But I would invite you to please check it out. No? It's once again on our website. It's a very well done video. It was done in collaboration with the ADB. Next slide, please. The next 2 slides naman will show you a bird's eye view lang of that video. Ano yung mga information that's in the video regarding TILA and effective interest rate. It illustrated kasi in that video yung the importance of TILA para full transparency nga po and how it protects borrowers from the informed use of credit and then the information that's needed nga in the disclosure statement. Next slide. This slide naman, so we should have moved 1 slide, sorry. There. This slide naman, sorry. Balik tayo. Ayun, yan. May math po konti. Pasensya na po, I'm only a lawyer, so I won't even try to explain this. Hindi po ako accountant. Math is a weak point for me, despite the Chinese look of my face, But that is the formula where I represents the interest rate nga po and N represent the number of compounding periods per year. How to apply this? Siguro, I will defer to sila Director Rachel and our friends at APPEND and the Microfinance Secretariat. So please, feel free to talk to them to figure it out na lang po. I hesitate to explain this further. Baka mapahiya lang po ako. Next slide po. So we're medyo done na po sa MNRC. I hope you'll indulge me, kasi si Dr. Jeng also requested that I speak about the SEC's initiatives naman po under the new normal. So we'll talk a little bit about the SEC naman po. Konting lecture na naman po. And interestingly enough, I was asked to talk about investment scam. So next slide, please. So one of the more important determinants of the legitimacy of an investment is it should be registered with us at the SEC, and that's how you determine whether or not investment po na yon is legitimate. Okay? You check first if it is registered with us at the SEC. In particular, you check if it is an investment contract. Now, why is it important to determine whether or not it is an investment contract? Especially for those who are investing outside there, no, in yung mga maraming products that are being released in Facebook, among other things. Investment contracts kasi are included by law as something as under the definition of securities under the Securities Regulation Code. It's very specific po yung Securities Regulation Code, no, that securities, including investment contracts, take note, are not supposed to be sold or offered for sale or distribution in the Philippines without a registration statement filed with the SEC. So, what does that mean? Hindi po pwede magbenta or mag-solicit ng mga securities, no, magbenta ng mga investments unless it is registered with us at the SEC. Kung wala po silang mapakita na registration statement with us, no, a secondary license, then there's something wrong. You have to be careful na. You have to be worried. Don't invest na kung pwede. So, any investment scheme kasi that does that is technically an investment scam. And sorry, no, before I go to the Howey test, how do you identify if one is considered an investment scam? Some of the things that you see on screen, no? See, these are some of the warning signs, no? High investment returns with little or no risk, overly consistent high returns, unlicensed sellers, unregistered investment products, secretive daw na strategy, kaya nila lahat na that'll make money every month, issues with paperwork, no? Difficulty receiving payments after a while. I hope you don't mind, no? I'll give you some specific examples. Yung Kappa. I mentioned this to Dr. Jeng, masama pa rin yung loob ko po noon, no? Yung Kappa in particular, because of that, I got death threats, no? Kasi we were shutting it down back in 2019. No? That was absurd kasi every month, Kappa promised you 30% returns every month. 30%. Ano mo ma-maintain yan? 30% for life. No? Based on your donation daw, you will get 30% blessings every month. So that's too good to be true. And that's another thing siguro I want to mention to you. If it's too good to be true, it probably is too good, no? So check talaga po, no? Make sure you're careful about it. The latest version of that Kappa scam is something called REPA right now, no? That medyo kinakasuhan na rin po yan sa Bohol and Davao and I think Cebu yata. Medyo naging active din po yun. But it's just like Kappa. It is essentially an investment scam. Anyway, sorry, I can talk forever about investment scams kasi medyo masama pa rin yung loob ko about. So let's move forward na lang, next slide po. So back lang po tayo to the discussion of what is an investment contract, no? The investment contract kasi is explained na by law. Ano po yan, no? It's a contract, transaction or scheme, no, as you see on screen, whereby a person invests money in a common enterprise and is led to expect profits from the efforts of others. So that's also known as the Howey test nga. So if you apply the Howey test and it meets all four of the requirements, then it is considered an investment contract. And if it is an investment contract, that means it is a security na dapat po mag-register po with the SEC. Ganun po yung how it's supposed to work. Okay? I emphasize the point, no, kung hindi nga po registered with the SEC, wag po kayo mag-invest. Alanganin yan, problema yan. You will almost, in all likelihood, almost never get the money back. Okay? Next slide, please. Now, with all these investment scams, the SEC recognizes now that we have to inform the public even more. And we have been trying to do that for the last couple of years, no? And this week, we are actually doing the SEC Investor Protection Week. And these are some of the activities we are doing. I invite you to also participate if you get a chance. Check it out. Marami din po kami mga videos showing those who are supporting us as investment champions. One of our investor champions nga, si Robbie Domingo, who I'm informed, medyo sikat din po for the ladies. We have some of our Olympic medalists, si Nesty and sino pa ba? We have a multiple number of athletes, no, who joined us also in supporting. Marami din po mga bloggers. So I would suggest you take a look, get a better idea of ano po consists of an investment or not. Yun, next slide. Ayun, there we are. So to show you an idea pala, no, some of the things we have been doing din at the SEC. Company registrations, medyo malapit na po tayo sa back to normal. We do 2,000 registrations na every month. We also have enforcement actions, no, during the COVID-19 pandemic. To give you an idea, dami talaga po kasing scams. We have issued 215 advisories, no, warning the public na alanganin po tong company. And then we've issued 12 of these groups, no, with cease and desist orders. So ito nga yung point ko, no? I keep going back to that point. Please check with us at the SEC. Marami pong scams out there. We are trying to stop as many as we can. At syempre, Marami po kasi talaga eh. So the public has to be aware. The public needs to know these things. They have to study and learn as well. Para they can be careful on their own. Sorry, next slide please. As to access to credit naman, let's discuss online lending lang sandali po. No? Si Director Rachel also helps handle this. We have issued 3 memorandum circulars naman on online lending apps. Okay? We prohibited on unfair debt collection practices, SEC Memorandum Circular 18. So ito yung mga bawal po yung mga collection practices where they get the information from your phone. Bawal din po yung mga mungulit na on odd hours. Bawal din po yung insultuhin yung tao over the phone just to force them to collect. No? Bawal din po yun under MC 18. If there are violations of that, file it with us at the SEC. And we have MC number 19 sa years 2019 where we required yung mga online lending apps to register with the SEC. And well, aminin natin, medyo marami-rami po kasi talagang abusive online lending apps, yung mga illegal ones. We recently issued lang yung moratorium on new online lending apps and platforms. No? Just last week, no? MC Memorandum Circular number 10. So, siguro that goes back to my point, if you're going to borrow money naman, no? Similar to before you invest, if you're going to borrow money from an online lending app, check po muna with the SEC. Determine nyo po muna kung legitimate po ba yan. Kasi otherwise, baka may ipit din po kayo, may hirapan po kayo later on. No? Next slide, please. Here, these are some of our enforcement actions to give you once again an idea. Dami pong abusado din in the online lending space. No? We've revoked 2,081 corporations na with registration. We've issued 58 cease and desist orders. And just so you're aware, currently, yung legitimate pa lang po na online lending apps that have registered with the SEC, 101 lang. If they are not on the list, there's something up with that. So please, take a look. No? Check with the SEC. And lastly, kasi I understand I might be overtime na po. Ito po yung bagong, ito po yung bagong na-release lang po namin this week, the SEC Check app. No? So if you have a Galaxy phone, you have an Android phone pala, please feel free to download it at the Google Play Store. The Apple version is coming out soon as well. No, we're just processing it pa po. Or nakauna po yung Google. You can check it, and then with the SEC app, makikita nyo po yung mga things that you want to know. You can check yung mga legitimacy of a company through the SEC Check app. So balik nga po kami sa point namin. Please check with SEC para malaman nyo po kung legitimate po ba yung lending company, legitimate po ba yung investment company, if they are registered with the SEC. Right? And last slide, and so yun po, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or issues, please feel free to email the Secretariat or my office, ocli@sec.gov.ph. I can't promise na we will reply kasi marami po talaga yung email, but I can promise you someone will read it. We also have a contact center and other things there online, no, and Facebook page. So with that, thank you po. Pasensya na, I think I might have gone over time. No?